Hey everyone, thanks for everyone that's listened to Perception so far and that's been following the journey from kind of interpretation through to perception. And I kind of wanted to give a bit of an update about what those two EPs kind of are and how they function and why I wrote them and what was going on at the time. So we kind of have to jump back to November of 2020. So everything with our band channel was going so well. Like we'd had all these live shows with bands like Critian, and we were able to play at Ding Dong Lounge, which is, you know, it's like I took off my bucket list, and all these things were going really, really good. And we were about to release I heard Penelope Sing, which was like the second album that we put together. And then on the 23rd of November, which is my wedding anniversary, 13th year wedding anniversary, I ended up waking up in hospital the next day, and on that day, 23rd, I ended up having an epileptic seizure. And I kind of didn't really understand what was going on, but everything made sense, things that happened before. So basically, on that day, I remember kind of like, you know, having a bath to relax and then getting out, and as I was getting out, it felt really weird, and I'd had these strong senses of deja vu quite a lot. Kind of feels like you're in Final Destination, the movie. That's the only way I can explain it. And it's like all these things are ticking off and all these checklists are getting ticked off, and so then it feels like the next step is that you're going to die, and that you always knew that this was going to happen. And I'd had these experiences quite a lot since probably about 18, I think. They would randomly appear, and you'd get a sense of dread in your stomach, and you would feel like this is it, and you wouldn't know when they would show up. They would just show up, and the way that they would trigger it was like I'd be listening to a podcast or something, or an audio book, or someone would say something, and then it would trigger this, like, I know what's about to happen next, and then they would say it and it would feel like it's happened. And so this night, 23rd of November, that had happened, and I'd gone into the main bedroom and kind of sat down and tried to calm myself down, and it wasn't working. And I'd gone outside and chilled out, and the last thing I remember was sitting on the couch and seeing my mother-in-law, and that was it. And then the next thing I remember was waking up in a hospital. In between that moment is kind of where all the crazy stuff happened, right? So my wife had come home with her mum after having a walk, and had noticed that I was like, I don't know all the details, but apparently I was running my watch under the tap and washing it, so this watch here, and I don't remember any of that. They were talking to me, and I wasn't really responding or making kind of like laughing faces and laughing noises, and I don't remember any of that. As I say, the last thing I remember was sitting on the couch. So I did sit on the couch, and they said that I wasn't responding, and my wife thought that I was just being an idiot, which would, yeah, I am an idiot sometimes, but on our 13-year wedding anniversary, it didn't make much sense. So I think she disappeared, and then when she came back, I still wasn't responding and was kind of stuck. And that's when they knew that something was wrong, so they called the ambulance, and the next neighbours, luckily was a paramedic, and his wife was a Middlemore nurse, so they came over and knew straight away something was wrong, and that I was likely having a seizure, and they got me down onto the ground from the couch, and then I ended up having a 15-minute epileptic seizure, grand mal seizure, which went on for ages. And they had people come over from the Westpac Rescue Copter team. They have a little van, they drove around from Ardmore and you know, injected me with stuff that should have stopped it, and it didn't, and so the seizure went on for like 15 minutes, and obviously I don't remember any of that. So by the time it had come up, you know, that I'd woken up, I'd kind of learned about all the stuff that had happened, about how that you know, like they weren't too sure whether or not the seizure had caused my brain to be starved of oxygen or something like that, or maybe I was going to wake up or not wake up, or I don't know. It was all kind of scary to learn afterwards, and then to learn that I couldn't drive for 6 months kind of really, you know, threw another spinner in the works, and I just went through this really crazy phase of feeling not that scared about it at all, but not sure how to make sense of it. And And one of the things that happened was that once school had finished, and I was taking my daughter to daycare, I would have to walk her across this field, just across our house to the daycare, because I couldn't drive. So it was just every day, just walking back and forth, and over again in my head, trying to make sense of what had happened, and it really didn't make any sense to me. And then in January, end of December, I'd started writing some music, kind of just trying to figure out what was going on, and the first song was called Beyond the Realm of Being, which is pretty grungy and intense and some drop D, and I'd read all this stuff about, how life works and things through books, and so a lot of the lyrics is just things about but beyond the realm of being and behind the haze of everything that we know and whatever, and I really felt something kind of powerful in that song, and that ended up leading me into taking away my laptop up north for the Christmas holidays, and I ended up writing a whole lot of stuff that kind of was a bit different. So it ended up that I'd come up with the main riff to Again, and then also the beginnings of Interpretation while I was away up north. And by the time I'd come back with all this extra time, I just sat here in this room and just felt music, kind of feeling, trying to explain how I felt, because it was all so bizarre. It still kind of is, and I liked Interpretation because it kind of left the door open to a whole lot of questions. Like, I was at that stage kind of processing the first few months of what was going on, and it was kind of still didn't make much sense to me at all. I had no control, no ability to drive. I was reliant on everybody to do everything for me, so very scary. And so over the last 6 months since then, I've been through a huge transformation of different ways of thinking and learning more about myself, and kind of like questioning life in general. The whole purpose of why am I even here? Why did I survive? Why didn't I die? They're pretty deep and crazy questions, but I was kind of thrust into that position where that's what was happening a lot of the time, and I was just sometimes replaying the whole situation, and it took a while for it to kind of process and come through, how grateful I am that I am still here to be able to talk to you about this and whatever, and I was having trouble trying to express it in music. And then one day, the song Good Love, which is what the original title was, it's now called Your Love, came through, and it was kind of like this very simplistic 3-chord song. And I stood up at the microphone just over here, and I just sang the first things that came to my mind, and it was just recounting the stuff that had happened. The fact that I was lying on the floor and wasn't aware of what was going on around me, and why am I still here? Why am I still around? And I don't know what saved me or who saved me. Obviously it was the ambulance and things like that, paramedic, our next door neighbor, my wife, everything. But it's hard to process and kind of make sense of. When one of the things I've been studying and always been interested in is the whole idea of quantum mechanics, and so the second song on the Perception is just like a musical instrumental, and it's just a bit crazy because quantum mechanics is crazy. Just there's lots going on there. So, but it's pretty aggressive, and it's got a really intense feel to it because it's just so confusing. Like, trying to make sense of life is that's why we have so much philosophy out there and theology, and because we want to kind of know the answers. And then the final song, Perception, kind of only really came around in about 3 or 4 days, and what I liked so much about it, it felt like the final piece to the puzzle, which is why I'm releasing this whole collection of songs as one continuous track. Because it's a 5.5 minute song, and the first 3 minutes or so is, has some vocals of it. There's not many lines of vocals in it. There's a lot of guitar and just melodic ideas throughout it, but kind of feels like it seals the deal for me. That whole thing of just waking up and not knowing if I'm dreaming or not, and you know, is life a dream? If you look at the quantum physics and you think about you know, the observation principles and observation theory about how like matter doesn't exist until someone's there to observe it, then man, like, trips me out quite a lot. So, and I wanted to write that, and I feel like the ending of that song really, it captures the emotion without the necessity of lyric or me to sing anything. It's just, that's, you know, it's the amount of gratitude that I have and thankfulness I have to being able to be alive and breathing and here with you and here with my family and all that sort of stuff. I think I really feel that those 3 songs, 4 if you include the tiny little interlude or intro that kind of connects the 2 things together. It's just a small little snippet of what it's been like for like my journaling journey, I guess, into my head for the last, I guess, 9 months now since the seizure happened. But yeah, I mean, when you listen to the whole thing, I hope that you can sit down and pay attention to it and do whatever you like around the house or whatever. But the songs do flow, and they do have a kind of, you know, connection throughout all of it, I think. And I kind of hope that gives some insight about what those 2 EPs are, because they are very different from, like, you know, the original debut, which is just a whole bunch of songs I was writing by myself, you know, back in 2018/19, and then I heard Penelope sing, which is kind of like a more, you know, we're just having fun. But these 2 EPs sound, you know, they're a little bit serious, but they're also a bit strange. But I like them. Hopefully you like them too. So, yeah, make sure you go have a listen to them and tell me what you think. Hopefully you enjoy them. But thanks for hearing my story about what's been going on, and catch you on the flip side.